Welcome back to another episode of the Make It to Midnight podcast. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is episode number 38. Last week on episode number 37, we had my guy Connor Smith on for an interview where we talked about his newest album that he's come out with, which you guys got to go check out as he's having incredible songs. But overall, the conversation was incredible. Connor is one of my favorite people that I've gotten to know in Nashville. He's one of the wisest. He's one of the most intentional, and he has so much depth to him. And he's such a good communicator that I think there's so much that you guys would love and have so many takeaways from this episode. So go check out that episode. That was our longest episode of all time and Make It to Midnight history as well. Almost an hour and a half. But y'all know usually I start out episodes with a quote. Today I'm going to start out with a definition because today I'm going to be talking about my trip, my bucket list, my Mount Rushmore, the trip that I have had circled in my mind for the last 6 years, my number one bucket list trip, Japan. I was fortunate enough to go 2 weeks ago with my wife. So this episode is the Japan recap because this culture is one that when I got to know it during my time at IMG, I knew I had to go to this country and see what it was about and see how in the world they're able to live the way they do with so much discipline, respect, all of the best words I can think of. Those are the words to describe Japan. So the definition I want to share with you guys and I think could be beneficial for you is the definition of Ikigai. And if you follow me on Instagram, then you've seen this because I put up a video about Ikigai explaining what it is. But if you don't, that's okay. That's what I'm going to tell you right now. Ikigai, it is a Japanese concept that combines the ideas of iki, meaning life, and gai, meaning worth or value, representing the sense of purpose, fulfillment, and joy that comes from living a life aligned with one's passions and values. Now, if you look up this word on your own, you press images, you're going to see a lot of Venn diagrams because basically this is the Japanese concept for a reason for being. And this is how it's explained. Ikigai is at the intersection of what we love, what we're good at, what we can be paid for, and what the world needs. It's your sense, it's your reason for getting up in the morning that goes further than just for your job, just for kind of the basic things that we could say are driving our life. And this is a hard thing to find. And if you're never going to find it if you don't sit with yourself and ask yourself, what do I love? What am I good at? What does the world need? And what could I be paid for to do it? And I think it's such a cool word because it's not about trying to achieve a mountaintop. It's more so about a direction to live in because these things will change. You'll get better at different things. The world is going to need different things. You're going to love different things throughout your life. So your Ikigai changes, I believe, throughout your life if you're growing as you should and you're taking risks and you're making changes to your life. But I think it's an awesome word. I think it's a word that could be beneficial to you. If there's one thing that you take away from this episode, I hope it's Ikigai because it's something that I'm searching for. I get it a lot out of this page, honestly. I'm not really getting paid for this page yet, but I know I love doing it. I'm trying to get good at it, and I do think the world needs it because we got to end the doom scrolling. Now, let's go ahead and get into this trip that I'm so excited to share for you guys. And obviously, this is a little bit different than my normal episodes because I'm just kind of sharing something that happened in my life, but it was an impactful thing that happened to my life. It happened in my life. I'm somebody that gets a lot out of travel, and I haven't really traveled much internationally. I've been super fortunate to travel to a lot of places in the U.S. And I think one of the reasons I love traveling so much is because that time on the plane. And I actually wrote something down while I was in Japan when we were on the bullet train, which incredible. We got to get a few of those running around the U.S. ASAP. But I was thinking how it was kind of funny that these places, these machines where we're going the fastest is when our brain is the slowest because we have nowhere to go. We can't get off this plane. We can't get off that train. All we have is ourselves and our thoughts. And if you put up your phone, it's amazing what can come to your mind, the thoughts that you can have, original ideas, just anything. You'd be amazed at what you think of. And I think that's one of the reasons I love traveling, is because so many times you travel, you got to be on one of these planes or trains, and you're just forced to slow down and think and take things in. And we really don't do that pretty much at all in our day-to-day life, unless you're getting up and doing, if you got your morning routine where you meditate or journal, whatever it may be. But this is extended period of time. And for us, going to Japan, you got about 13 and a half hours to do that. So we left Nashville on a Friday at 7 a.m., had a quick layover where we had to stop, of course, get our last processed meal for the week before we head to the land of fresh food, the land of just, oh man, thinking about the food, it gets me off track. But we board the plane in Chicago. Sydney and I were back row, middle seats, and it's one of those where you got 2 seats on the left, 4 seats in the middle, 2 seats on the right. So we're back middle. Luckily, though, I got a Japanese guy sitting to my left that I already know we're going to get along with amazing. Now you're going to ask, how you know you're going to get along with him? Because this is the connection I have to this culture, that I tell myself I have to this culture. So I sit down and I realize that I need something, and I go to look over to ask the guy, and he immediately is standing up. I don't think I've ever seen somebody move so fast. And so I get up, grab my thing, tell him thank you. He gives me the quick bow. I got my first bow before we even got to Japan, which the respect that they show people is another one of those things that I wish the U.S. could take from Japan. We need that. We need that level of respect and gratitude in our country. So I already know I'm going to hit it off with this guy. And I'm telling Sid, I'm like, yeah, Sid, I promise you this guy, like by the end of the flight, this guy will be my best friend. And I was fully prepared to do whatever it took to do that. He didn't speak much English, but we've been there before. At IMG, there was plenty of kids that didn't speak much English, and we got it done through Google Translate. And some of those kids are the ones that I saw on this Japan trip. But the reason I didn't get to become friends with this guy is because there was some seats open on the right. And there was 2 seats, which obviously is going to give us some more room. But I felt bad about leaving my seat partner that we had already shared one bonding moment. But she hadn't made that connection yet with her guy. So we end up moving. I tapped the guy on the shoulder next to me. I said, hey, man, unfortunately, we're going to move seats over there, but at least now you have some more room, right? So it's better for all of us in the long run. And I don't think he really understood me, but he saw what I was watching on my phone, and it was an old school Japanese anime called Hajime no Ippo. It's a boxing anime. Definitely go watch it. It's on Netflix. And he just looked at it, he points at it, and he's like, okay, and then gives me the fighting, which is the cover of the show I'm watching. So I was pretty bummed for the first few hours that, and I'm just looking over, seeing if he's missing me, if he's looking back at me. We only made eye contact once we landed, but some of my favorite parts of that plane ride was, number one, seeing Alaska, because anytime, and we saw the very end of Alaska, so it was truly that last block of ice, the last block of the tundra. I don't know the exact word for it, and then it was just boom, Pacific Ocean, which was pretty fascinating to see, and just a testament to how amazing travel is these days, where 4 hours prior, we're in Chicago, one of the bigger cities, one of the more complex grid lines in the country, and then 4 hours away, you're in the land of just vast, empty nothingness except for cold and water. That was cool. It's always a good reminder of how small we are. The other thing was, I watched this movie, and I hate that I just did this earlier too. I forgot the name of it, so let me pull it up. It's called Train Dreams, and it has Joel Edgerton in it as the lead character. Who, if you've seen the movie Warrior, he's the actor that's the teacher in the show. But it's basically about a logger. It's a very simple movie about a simple man trying to live a simple life. But we all know there is no such thing as a simple life, especially if you are married and if you have a job and if you have all these things you're supposed to have in life. It's very hard for it to be simple. This movie, if you are all about action and things like that, you're not going to like it. But if you're ready to do some thinking some slowing down, this is a great movie to watch. So basically, this guy, he's just chopping down trees, and this takes place in the railroad era where railroads are just being built and before steel. So obviously, loggers are massive in this time. And unfortunately, he has all these horrible things happen to him. I'm going to spoil it. So if you're going to watch this movie, mute this part. But his wife, she dies in a house fire along with his little daughter. And so after that, on his next job, he is sitting there with one of his older coworkers who had just actually gotten hit by a branch that had fallen. And this guy was a little bit too old to be a logger. And so they're all kind of worried about him. You know, they're wondering what's going on internally. Is there some bleeding going on? But for the most part, he seems okay. And over the next few days, he kind of gets a little bit more spacey. He's forgetting people's names. But ultimately, he's sitting in the woods with the guy leaned up on the tree. And he's like,
beautiful, ain't it? Just beautiful.
What is art?
All of it. Every bit of it.
And that, I think, set the tone for our trip to Japan because all of it was beautiful. And in the movie, I love that line because they'd walk through all this tragedy, so many horrible things, but also so many great things. And to have that outlook on it, just the ability to experience it is what was beautiful and what is beautiful about life. The movie did a great job of capturing that, capturing all of the low moments, all of the high moments, and all of the simple moments. So that set the tone because this trip was nothing but beautiful. And I think the most beautiful part about the trip had to be seeing all of these kids from IMG Academy, where if you don't know me, I used to work there for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and it's an international boarding school. And it is the reason that I fell in love with Japan because there's kids from all over the world that come there. But the kids from Japan, they were always the most respectful, the most disciplined. The rooms were the cleanest. And I just really enjoyed getting to know them, getting to know their culture. And I don't know, I just always felt drawn to it. And so luckily I was able to meet up with my guys, Hiro. He played tennis, Hiro Otani. Henry Nishiwaki, he plays golf, still is chasing the golf dream. So if he's listening to this, you know I'm pulling for you, praying for you, rooting for you. We got to see my guy Togo, who's one of my coworkers. And then we saw my guy Jose, his sister. And that Jose, I know you're not thinking that's not Japanese. Hosei, last name Kojima. If you're a soccer fan, he plays for DC United here in the MLS. But I met up with his sister, and I need some water, and her husband, and then their mom over the course of our 7 days in Japan. And I think, I hadn't seen any of these people in over 6 years. The last time would have been in 2020. And, it's weird because there was never, I feel like if you don't see a friend here in the U.S. and you're not that close, you only knew him for a year, and you're going to see each other again for the first time, there's usually a little bit of anxiousness, some nerves of just like, man, is it going to be awkward? Do we still get along? Were we only friends because we were proximity to each other? But for whatever reason, I did not feel any of that. Like I was so excited to see them. I was so excited to introduce them to Sitten. And I was excited to see Japan through their eyes because they grew up there and now they're back home. They're so much more mature than when I knew them. And so that was it was really special because it showed that bond that we have formed was able to last those 6 years of pretty much just only being able to Instagram message and, going maybe even a full year at a time with not talking. And I think it was just awesome because like growing up in South Carolina, like, I don't know. I mean, I never even thought about potentially having friends or relationships with people from literally across the world. And I was telling Sitten after one of the dinners with Henry and his dad and Henry's girlfriend I was just like, man, this is life right here. Like having a dinner, sharing a meal, with people who Henry can speak English, but his girlfriend, her English is better than she gave herself credit for. But couldn't really speak it. And then his dad was rusty on his English. But I'm like, this is it right here. Like, this is how I feel we were intended to live. Just all different people in all walks of life in all different parts of the world coming together, having a meal, laughing, still talking about movies, talking about dreams, talking about what happened that week, talking about just all of the normal things, all of the simple things like in that movie. And it was just one of those moments of like, man, life is beautiful in this simple moment, eating some Chinese, Japanese food in Osaka. And that was like the midway point of the trip. But the first part, we were in Tokyo for a couple days. So we saw Osaka. I'm learning that different Japanese people pronounce that city in all different ways. But amazing city, touristy, but they keep the tradition of Japan alive very well. So a lot of temples. Saw my first temple, immediately just obsessed with it because I'm thinking about all the different shows I watch. I'm thinking about The Last Samurai. And I'm thinking about, man, I cannot wait to ask all my Japanese friends about these temples, what goes on here, what are the traditions, routines that take place when people are walking up and I'm seeing them clap and bow. How does this all work? And it was awesome. And, we had our first night of sushi, probably our worst meal, to be honest. But it was late. We had the jet lag. We were antsy. We were hungry. And we went in there and the food was still incredible. It was more so just the atmosphere. And that was probably the only quote unquote low moment of the trip. It wasn't even a low moment. It was still higher than most of my moments on the day-to-day basis here. We got a good night's sleep and then we ended up going down to the fish market. And, this is where basically the mecca of tuna, salmon, all of your favorite sushi rolls. This is the mecca of that. These fishermen are showing up back to the fish market at 4 a.m. after being out there all morning catching fish, and they're selling it. These fish are auctioned off for tens of thousands of dollars. We're walking through there with Hiro. He's explaining all the ins and outs of it, and this is when he's talking about how important freshness is to Japanese. And obviously they're eating so much of the food they can eat raw. They eat raw beef. You can eat raw chicken. They eat raw eggs. And it's because it's all fresh. And even when you go to the restaurant, so we go to lunch with Hiro after we get some nigiri and sashimi and everything and oysters. They're oysters. Massive. I'm a big oyster guy. And these were the biggest oysters I think I've ever seen and probably the best oysters I've ever had. But we went to a ramen place for lunch and there's this line out the door. And Japan is a country of efficiency, which is another thing we got to take back to the U.S. But we show up, there's a line outside of it, and a lot of these restaurants, especially for all these lunch spots, it's very small. The menus are small, and the actual physical space is small. So maybe like 8 people can fit in there, and especially in a lot of these ramen spots. But when you're in line, they go ahead and take your order. And at some of the places, this place, I think, like they go take your order. I think they're gauging on how much more they need to make of whatever it is. Then you go inside and you choose on this little digital screen. So you're waiting in line for maybe 15 minutes. You go sit down. The food is there within 3 minutes. And I'm like, man, why in the world don't we do this in the U.S.? One of my friends brought up a decent point, saying that's because there's no tipping culture in Japan. Good service is expected. It's not something that should be celebrated in their head. But so you do have a different experience. Your server's not there like trying to put on a performance for you. They're there to get you your food as quick as possible and as fresh as possible. And that's exactly what they do. Everything is built around efficiency in the restaurants and everywhere else. When we're going from the lunch spot to Shibuya to go check out some other temples before we meet up with another friend with the Kojima family for dinner. You go into there, and when you're on the escalators, you're lined up to the left if you're not in a rush. Everybody single file, whole right side wide open. So the people that are rushing late, trying to catch the specific train, get back home, whatever it may be, they can fly up. Now you go down to the subways. Subway was never not on time. And everybody, there's no like pushing and shoving, getting on. You step onto it, and it's the quietest, cleanest place you could ever imagine, which is hard to fathom coming from the US. But it's like that. And because everybody respects each other so much, I think that's why there's no delays. People don't miss trains. They're not getting in the way of others. They're not getting frustrated at each other. So the efficiency and the discipline are two of my favorite things that I loved about it. So yeah, we go around, explore Shibuya. Hiro walks us through some of the different traditions. All awesome. Cool to see how much he respects the country and some of those traditions, even though, as you know, some of those things are dying with the younger generation, just as the world continues to get away from I feel like a lot of the things that we grew up with. That was an awesome experience. Those first few days in Tokyo, we had that last meal we had with Erica and the Kojimas was a Japanese barbecue where, you know, you got the little stove in front of you, and Erica, she was cooking up all the different meats, and it was some of the best food that I've ever had. And a fun little thing where it seemed like a lot of the last courses with the Wagyu was you would create basically a dipping sauce for the last slice of meat with a raw egg and whatever else it was. Put it in there. So good. So good. But then we went over to Kyoto the next day. Kyoto is way more traditional, a lot more nature, easily accessible nature. So many temples, so many shrines, feels like a historical place. And it was probably my favorite city as a whole because it still has its city parts to it. They've got their market, kind of like a flea market, farmer's market type deal, a nice downtown area. And it was cool because we were staying near a high school, and the first day we were there, we're walking around, and it was some event going on for the school. So a lot of parents were out there. A lot of the girls are in their kimonos. They're taking photos by one of the temples, and it was cool to witness them on, you know, what maybe was the day before spring break or whatever, and just like observe how they are all with each other. And, you know, obviously there's still like bad apples in every class or whatever, but I promise you the bad apples are few and far between in these Japanese classes because respect and honor is such a big thing that they don't want to disappoint their family when they go back home if they get a bad report from someone. So you see them all in their little groups, as nice as can be to each other. They're all laughing. It seems too good to be true. That night we had an amazing Wagyu omakase in Kyoto, and we sat next to this incredible Hawaiian couple. I think the coolest thing about that meal, minus how good the food was the Hawaiian couple. And their names were Brian and Halani. I know you're thinking Brian doesn't sound very Hawaiian. Brian is just kind of his, like, I don't even know what you would call it. I guess like his traditional American name. His Hawaiian name is Kanaloa, I think. And which I love. I think Hawaiian names sound awesome. But we sat next to them, had an amazing time, and learning about Hawaii from them, learning more about their life in general, and just watching them experience the food. The Hawaiians, such a culture of gratitude. And obviously they are in the U.S., but everyone knows the Hawaiians, they have their own culture that they honor and respect. And one of the coolest things I witnessed was at the end of the meal, and this was a special, special meal, they had brought a gift for the staff, and it was probably 6 or 7 Japanese guys, a part of the staff, and they brought a gift for them, and then they sang basically a song of gratitude for the meal, for the experience to the Japanese staff. So it's just them two standing here singing to the whole crew. And I'm just like, man, wow, what a way to express gratitude, just unapologetically, unafraid of what anybody is thinking. You just break out into song and thank this staff for what they did. And I thought it was awesome. I'm like, man, we need more of this. Like, we need to normalize this because it was, and Halani's voice, amazing. Brian and Halani, if you're listening, y'all are awesome. And I promise you, we're going to come to Hawaii. But the following day, we went down to Osaka for the day to meet up with Henry. We got to eat lunch at one of him and his dad's favorite spots, a spot they frequent. Had some incredible food, per usual. Then we got to meet his dad, because his dad, they've been around Osaka since Osaka started, is what it sounds like. And everybody knows him. The delivery man, he wasn't at home, and he ends up just calling Henry's dad on his personal number. Hey, where you at? Oh, we're actually across the street at this coffee spot. And the delivery guy comes up, hands him his package. I'm like, dude, you're tapped in. We had this incredible strawberry dessert thing, which, I'm going to be trying to show photos and videos throughout this whole episode. So if you're listening, I highly recommend that you turn it on YouTube to watch, because try to bring you along with me on it. Then we went to the Osaka waterfall, got to see some wild monkeys. Probably my favorite part of that car ride was, Henry and I were talking, and Henry's a pretty open book with his emotions and everything. And he was telling me that he had just got back from caddying one of our other friends from IMG, Hans, Gabriel, but in Indonesia. Obviously Indonesia, a lot of very poor parts to it. And Henry was just saying how Indonesia's very religious, very Christian. And even though so many of these people don't have much, my nose is itching like crazy, just don't have much, their dedication to God and gratitude towards God is something that stood out to him so much. And he was just explaining to me how impactful that was, and how, it was encouraging him to take that next step in his faith, because in Japan, Christianity is not very big. And I think that if there was one critique to the culture that I would have, it would be that, because the suicide rate is very high amongst the men in Japan, especially. And I think a lot of it is because that discipline, all the things I love about the country, the discipline, the respect, it's a massive magnifying glass on these guys, especially. And they feel so much pressure to do every small thing right and just never mess up. And, it's you never really get applauded for much there, which, again, there's good parts to that. But it should be done in doses. And I think a lot of the guys don't get much reinforcement from, their dad, or like they feel like they got to work so hard to get this love. And obviously that's what God offers. That's what Jesus offers, is unconditional love no matter what you're doing. It has nothing to do with the results you're putting in. And I think Japan could be maybe a results-based culture, a work-based culture, where like that is, they respect everybody, but your worth is found in the work. And I think, introducing Jesus to a culture like that would make them truly an untouchable culture, because they have the framework is there in that country. They just got to have God navigating some more of it, maybe pushing some more of it. So it's cool to see Henry say that and share that, feel comfortable enough to share it with me. And I've always thought the world of Henry, and it was cool to go deep like that with the conversation. And then that night is when we had the meal, meeting his girlfriend, having the dinner with his dad. His dad, he said it looked like Olivia Newton-John, which was massive compliment. But incredible meal, incredible time in Osaka with Henry and his family. And then we spent that next day, went to the bamboo rainforest. We went to there's like a monkey park where you can feed the monkeys. We fed them. Some very bully monkeys in there. They don't take the same core values that the Japanese people take. They're bullying each other. They're stealing food. But that was cool. Kyoto is just, can't say enough good things about that city. And we had this awesome sushi at this place that fits probably 15 people. These two legendary chefs grinding the wasabi root for fresh wasabi. The fish was perfect. It was probably my favorite sushi that we had the whole entire time. And then we end up going to this little fishing village called Amano Hashidate, which is one of the 3 beauty spots in Japan. And you go up on the ski lift and you're looking out over this little tiny, almost like fishing village. Not a very touristy spot, especially amongst Americans. I don't think there probably was no other English as a first language speaking people there at all. Maybe it seemed like a lot of maybe Japanese people were there on vacation, which made it that much cooler, that much more authentic. The place, the views are incredible. The water's crystal clear. You're seeing these starfish, jellyfish, other random fish, which are starfish I should have known, but 10 times cooler than the starfish we see here. They have this like awesome orange, almost, it looks like it looks like they're a part of a gang. They have this orange marking on them that it looks cool. I'm like, dude, I obviously you can't speak, but I'm like, I would probably be friends with you just based off these signs you got on your back or front. I don't really know which is the front and back of a starfish. But that place was cool because it was a nice getaway from Tokyo, which is obviously bigger than New York, hustle bustle. Kyoto is very touristy, so it's very busy. And Amano Hashirate was very calm, very peaceful. You can walk across to this other fishing village or other little small town. And when we were there, it was like a holiday, or not holiday, but like the weekend is kind of Wednesday, Thursday, which is weird. So we're walking around these streets and we probably saw 2 people, which I'm like, this is cool. We're halfway across the world and we're just in this slow coastal town with nobody in it. This feels fake. How beautiful everything is. And we stayed this awesome Airbnb that was like right on the river. And we were only there for a night. We had an incredible meal at one of like 2 restaurants that was open. And that next day we do a little shopping. We go to this awesome cafe with this beautiful view again of the river. And then we head on to take the train back to Kyoto because this was probably like a 2.5-hour trip by train, maybe even longer, from Kyoto. I felt like we were on a movie set because there was probably, I didn't speak to him, but you see it in these videos, the wisest man to ever exist was sitting on the opposite side of this old, like wood-based interior train that was something out of a movie. And I look over and this guy's just staring out, no phone, no nothing. Gray hair, smile, like, that calm, peaceful smile on his face, just looking out the window almost the whole entire time or looking straight ahead. You have to be the wisest person, the most at peace person I've ever met. But I felt like I was in an old school Japanese movie. And the train ride back was it was awesome. Again, it's back to that first point where it's just like the times you're going the fastest is when your mind slows down the most. And when I'm just on that train riding back and looking out over the landscape of these small rural type of towns and villages, it's just like you feel like you're in a land with so much history, and obviously you are. Like I don't know, it's just this is the coolest thing in the world. I wish I had better words to explain it, and that's definitely a place I want to go back to and spend more time. We get back to Kyoto, and we got to get on the bullet train to go back to Tokyo for the last couple days of the trip. We get back to Tokyo. We're staying in Shibuya this time, which is the famous Shibuya crossing. And there's tons of different restaurants, tons of different everything. I'm even having a hard time remembering what we had for dinner that night. But one of the nights in Tokyo, which I guess was on the front end of the trip, we went to this bar. We sat next to this Indian couple, and they were a blast to hang out with as well. But just another culture. We got the Hawaiians, the Indians, and then on the second half of the trip, we met everybody from freaking all over the world because on the last night, well, I guess I'll back up. We met up with my friend Togo, my coworker, Togo, and he's a soccer agent out there in Japan. And we went to dinner with him and his girlfriend. We saw the cherry blossoms on Meguro River. Just beautiful. Everybody taking photos by him. And still, just like people don't bump into each other. It's as busy as it could possibly be, but it's still so easy to navigate. And I don't know. It's not loud at all, even though there's so many people. It's like nobody's yelling in their conversations. It's just peaceful. And so we go to dinner with Togo and his girlfriend is actually from Hungary. And her name is Lily, but we have an awesome little like tapas dinner with them. Togo's ordering the food and the drinks and everything. And, the US dollar is very strong in Japan right now. So we got a meal that would have been easily $150 in the US, if not more, for like $43. And it was a bunch of different small plates with amazing raw fish, octopus, different kinds of sashimi. We had some some sake, so much good stuff. So much good stuff. But that was cool to meet up with him because I hadn't seen him since we worked together. If we ever move to Japan, I'm going to try to immerse myself into Togo's friend group because his girlfriend was awesome. They live in a really cool part of Tokyo as well. But great seeing him. Then the last thing I'll hit on, because I know we're running late on time right now. Usually I try to keep it to 20 minutes, but I'm telling you, this trip was special. We went to this place on our last night called Golden Guy, and it's basically this strip of bars, probably seven small streets, all just slammed with bars. And some of these bars have different themes. So I heard there's like, a Harry Potter theme one, there's like a sports theme one. We just kind of went into a few random ones, but my favorite part about it was just meeting people from all over the world. So in the first bar we go into, there's like 4 Australians, and then like these these students studying abroad from Norway. They come in, all of them awesome. Obviously, the Aussies having the greatest time in the world. The kids from Norway were the nicest kids of all time. Immediately, I'm like, we got to go to Norway next because they're awesome. We go to another spot. We're talking with people from Argentina, from London, from Spain. These guys, they live in Spain, but they're born in Uruguay, and they love Uruguay, but the passport they own is Italian, is Italy. They have Italian passports, but they've never been to Italy. Hopefully I'm not outing them right now. But they were awesome. It was an older brother and a younger brother. Saw a guy from New York. We actually had a mutual friend, and his girlfriend. We met her, and it was just so cool to meet people from all over the world, everybody coming together to experience this amazing place that is Japan. And you're asking everybody, man, how's your trip going? Every single person. This place is incredible. I love this place. This has been the number one destination because, Europeans, they travel all over. Every single one of them. This is the best country we've been to. I'm like, there is something to be said about that. And the culture is special. And it was just like, it feels dramatic to say life-changing trip, but it is. Like, you get back to the US and it's kind of like, man, like, how in the world, like, why can't we operate just at 50% capacity as Japan is operating? Whether that's with each other, whether that's with our restaurants, businesses, whatever it may be. And I don't know. I mean, also going abroad, it makes you grateful for being from America as well, because we do have so much to offer, and we're exposed to so many different cultures just in the US, which we're lucky. But I think the last thing I want to share with you guys, and this was probably the biggest thing that stood out to me, was I asked all of the IMG kids, what do you guys miss most about America? And every single one of them gave a form of answer that was revolved around freedom. Like, I miss kind of the freedom essentially the freedom to like mess up, the freedom to act dumb, be silly, be stupid, maybe do something where you get in trouble, but you're not going to get in that trouble. You're not bringing shame on anybody. And I was like, man, what a testament to the US. And obviously there's bad sides to that too, but the country was obviously founded, like, our big thing in the US is freedom. And to know that that's what they miss most about the country made me grateful to be from the US and to be able to, experience life without sort of the magnifying glass that a lot of these Japanese people can feel on themselves. And it's another reason I feel like I'm so drawn towards that country, because I'm like, man, we could do so much good for especially these kids there, just to like love on them and have fun and be goofy. And I think ultimately that's why I was able to connect with them so much at IMG, because I like to think I'm fun, I'm goofy. I don't really worry too much about what people think of me. And it's like Japan needs that a little bit more. And obviously, they have that side to where people are out there doing their things. The anime culture is a weird culture. I'm not naive to that, even though I love the shows. But it was just cool / heartbreaking to hear them say that, because I know that pressure they feel. And yeah, I think the perfect world probably exists right in the middle of US culture and Japanese culture, because there's so much opportunity here, entrepreneurship wise, and there's so much freedom. You can fully be yourself here, but we lack respect in the U.S. We lack discipline in our day-to-day lives. Our lives are full of distraction, and we don't do the little things right. In Japan, they do the little things right. They don't litter. There's no trash anywhere. They respect every single person, no matter what job they have. We saw some trash men in Kyoto, and the way they attack their job was, man, if we did this, we would be weapons at work. You would never get fired if you attacked work like these trash men attacked work at in Kyoto. It's because they don't have the big industrial cars like we do. And so they toss the bins over, then they bring out the broom and the dustpan to sweep up whatever else might be out there. And just having that broom and dustpan is something that we don't have here. It's like that one extra level. And that, the way they moved, every move had purpose to it. And it's just cool. And then when you leave, you're taking off on the runway, and the grounds crew, they're all waving to you, bowing, thanking you for visiting their country, being in their country. And I guess on that note too, I'm sure y'all have seen the videos, but there's two other things I got to brag on Japan for. When they played England in the World Cup, just like tune-up match, a bunch of Japanese people stayed after the match, picked up all the trash in the stadium. It's like, we got litter flying around outside right now out of my window. Then the other one was a lot of Japanese elementary school kids, most adorable kids in the world too, by the way. They all got the color coordinating hats depending on the class they're in. And when they cross the street, if there's a crossing guard, they all stop, turn to the crossing guard, bow, thank them. Every single job, it appears, maybe I'm naive, Japanese person, they might have to correct me, but it seems like they respect every single person no matter what job they have, and they respect the job that person is doing. It's like they know that job is important and crucial to the overall function of their society. And I think we do the exact opposite. If you like, we would look down on a trash man, a crossing guard, you just think whatever. Like, you would never think to stop and pay gratitude or respect and bow to some of these positions that they do show that respect for in Japan. And I'm like, man, we got to start doing this. And they do all the little things right. But that's pretty much my Japan recap. It's one of the most amazing countries in the world, filled with some of the most amazing people, with the most amazing traditions, amazing food. And I'm sure there's things I missed. Hopefully I was able to capture how much the trip meant to me and how much I got from it, how much I learned from it, how much it's impacted my daily life just in this week out. Because the trip was awesome. It's a country I would live in for a year. The U.S. is definitely the place that I want to spend most of my time, but it's a country I would love to live in, love to experience, and I think the world of them. It's a country that, just like any other country, they need help making it to midnight. We need help making it to midnight. But if we can apply some of these things in their day-to-day culture, I think it will help us make it to midnight. It'll help us find our ikigai, and it will help us help others kind of experience these things as well. So hopefully you learned something from this episode, even if it was just a little bit more about Japan as a whole. I know it wasn't like a lot of my other ones, but I was excited to share with you guys this trip to Japan. And make sure you watch it on YouTube. You'll see the videos. I'm going to try to put together a little highlight tape from our trip because there's so many cool things that I don't want to forget, which is one of my favorite things with this channel. It's kind of just leave it as it's like a memory bank for me to go back and watch. But thanks for listening to this episode. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week. And keep on making it to midnight. Sayonara, which is Japanese. Now you know Japanese.